There was a
Sorry, guys, I forgot to hit the record button. Go ahead.
There was a huge controversy over that. People protested in front of my house, came up on my yard and my porch and all of that, but it's all good. The police department took care of that. But I just want you to know, and I've gotten some pros and cons in terms of the position on it. But as we talk about police and crime in our community, I would say to you all, is that we have to have our police officers. We're short 423 officers at this point. And right now, we don't have a place for them to train. What we're going to be doing with the police academy is moving them into Atlanta Metropolitan College temporarily for the next year or so until we figure out where we're going to train our police officers. But we're short 423. When they come in for training, we got to have a decent facility for them to be in. So we're in a big mess right now. And so there's controversy over where to build it out off of Moreland Avenue. People are saying save the trees and all of other things. There are some people who are protesting in front of my house who are just saying that they're anti-police and don't want to have anything that we should be building a police state. But I'm at the same time, I would tell you as a council member, I'm doing my job. When we're looking at policing across the city, we have to look at it from protecting our citizens. I just heard a lot of talk about crime in the community and what's going on. At the same time, we need to make sure that our police are doing their job. They're not using excessive use of force. So I'm looking at all of these things, but we have to protect our police and our fire department. Our fire department, we just today talked about actually this legislation because our fire engines are just gone. And so we got to put in money for fire engines. The police and fire are important to us. And that was the controversy, but anybody have any questions, you can talk to me one-on-one about it. I'm welcome to talk about it, but I have no problems with what I did. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Councilperson Shepherd. If you have any questions, go ahead and put it in the chat. If we got time at the end, we're gonna allow her to continue to talk about a couple of pieces of legislation as well.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Is Councilperson Smith on, or Representative? All right, moving forward, we're going to go ahead and go into matters of voting. Matters of voting. All right. So essentially, Paul, you'll speak towards, or Jacob, I'll let you speak first, and then Paul, you can come behind Jacob. So what we agreed on in the executive board meeting is to group the Chosewood Park development. So Z2111, ZD2112, CDP 2115, and CDP 2116 into one voting matter. Is there anybody that is opposed to that? Please use go ahead and speak now.
Yes, I oppose it.
Okay, who's that?
Sorry, this is Taryn. I guess I have to understand a little bit more because does that include the design?
The thread, okay.
Yeah, well, I think Taryn, the issue is we have 4 items on here. We want to take them all together. Okay. Now, when you said you opposed it, are you saying that you oppose that idea, or you oppose the Atlanta housing project?
Taryn, which item would you like to pull out of these?
I would like to pull out the CDP item. I'm just opposed to voting on that separately because discussion around in our community about the Atlanta housing rezoning, which I do support addressing together, but the Beltline issue I think is separate. So I just don't think it's reasonable to vote on it in tandem with the
Okay. Jacob?
Mainly being because it was approved in our neighborhood association, and I know that we all agreed to cooperate and come up with a sort of consensus around what to do with and I don't think anyone agreed they wanted to vote on the Beltline matter at the same time.
It's
Okay, the
not
Beltline is not
Beltline,
included. The Beltline, so the
No.
Beltline is, currently the Beltline is not, you talking about sub area 2 and sub area 3?
Oh, yeah, that's what I thought CDP meant. Is that
No,
something
no.
different?
Yeah.
No.
So the Beltline is not gonna go into the agenda until next month.
Oh, okay. What is the CDP then? I'm sorry.
Okay,
Uh,
so,
I can answer
Jacob,
that one.
go ahead, Paul, and then Jacob, you'll
right.
follow up.
In the single family area, what they're doing is they're upzoning it to a higher density. So the CDP amendments are required to get that zoning in there. So they're upzoning things from R4A to MR2 and MR3. So as a
Got
result,
it.
that's
Okay.
why they need the CDP. But actually,
Okay. I rescind my objection.
yeah, okay,
Okay,
it's all together. So we're here to discuss all these items as one item, mainly a yay or nay on the Atlanta housing rezoning for Inglewood South. Okay,
appreciate it. So Jacob, I'm gonna allow Jacob to go ahead and speak towards it, and then Paul will go ahead and do
Yeah,
that.
thanks, Troy. These are two different applications. I mean, they have two different application numbers. And from my understanding, I mean, and the way that the Chosewood Park neighborhood voted on this, it was on each application. And from the CDP amendments, don't those run concurrent with the application itself?
Correct.
yes.
So yeah, that's
Paul
correct. So
McMurray,
you,
I think Jacob is again sort of confused on this, okay? Now, the issue that's going to come up is that we feel that Chosewood Park did not discuss the for sale housing option, which we would have liked to have been 30%. If Atlanta Housing wishes to reconsider that, they're going to have to reconsider that over their entire application. Okay, so that's why it's simpler to take these all together and then bring up the issue, which I would like Jacob to come up. The reason why a lot of people are here, Chosewood Park did vote to support these items, a positive vote. However, there was a feeling that the community had not discussed enough about the percentage of for sale housing that should be on this property, which is currently 8%, and we would like it to be 30%. So I'd like to ask Jacob, is that your impression of the issue at hand right now?
so Paul,
You want me to answer that, Troy?
Yes.
give me a second here. James, would you scroll back up to the items that matter here? Okay, appreciate it. So briefly, Paul, if you just can give a synopsis so that everybody understands the context of Z or Jacob. Jacob, go ahead, and I think Jacob probably can do it. So Jacob, if you can give a synopsis of Z2111 and Z2112, and just kind of give an overview of each one, so that we can go
Sure.
ahead and open the table for discussion.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm out here in the garden. Let me walk in here. But yes, these are two different applications asking for rezoning. The application that is Z21-012 is to be changing to an MR2. That applicant is already set in a R4 zoning, and they are taking those single family lots and looking to rezone those, upzone those. That was the applicant from Jim Cheeks, and he was approved from Chosewood Park with a vote of 15 yes, 1 no, and 8 abstained. And the second applicant is Z-21-011, which is the lower portion of Inglewood South, changing R4 lots to a higher zoning, higher density of MR3C. That passed at the Chosewood Park Neighborhood Association, 12 yes, 11 no, and 5 abstained. I am not opposed to you know, what Paul has suggested with a higher percent for sale units from the second applicant. But I believe that the first applicant has a you know, a very large percentage of those houses for sale. So that's why I was wondering why we would, you know, combine these two applications into one and not vote separately for each individual.
Okay, this is Paul Murray. The
So-
reason why for the, right now, the total percentage of for sale property on this, on the AA site is only 8%. Okay, so you're gonna have to take the whole property over both applications
Paul,
to
is
get to
that
30%.
well, I think we should let the applicant speak
Okay.
for what the
So-
percentages are.
So.
No, we know they
So
are.
let's call, let me
Okay.
call it the order, Paul. We're gonna call it this
Okay,
order.
I mean, they will
So what we're
confirm
gonna
it's
do-
8%.
Paul, what we're gonna do is, since Z2112 is the overwhelming majority of Chosewood, the reason why we want, Jacob, the reason why we combined it was to speed up the meeting, but if we want to vote separately, we can.
I think it's only fair to the applicants. That's
since
the reason I
21,
suggested.
okay, so since Z2112 was an overwhelming majority from Chosewood Park, can I get a solicitor motion to approve that one, and then we'll have a discussion around 11, if that's possible, or do we want to open up the table for discussion for only Z2112 at this point?
My hand is raised.
I so move.
Second,
Okay,
This is
Jane.
Terry.
Gloria, I'm allowed Gloria to speak because she did have her hand raised
Yes,
for
sir.
discussion.
Yes, sir. I appreciate all the hard work, but I thought we had decided that we would not beleaguer the meetings with the parsing of all these issues, that if folks wanted to figure out the machination of Chosewood, they're welcome to go to the Chosewood meetings that deal with these issues. And that when they come to the table of the NPU, then we defer to the vote of Chosewood. That's what I thought we had decided.
Yeah,
Because now,
so, yeah, and yeah, that is the general consensus. So there, Chosewood had we'll talk about that when we vote about C2111.
Right, I'm
So
sorry.
can I
that-
get
we're not deferring to what
Yeah,
they
yeah,
vote.
but we need to associate the CDP amendment with this zoning then, if we're gonna do it this
Yep.
way, so we don't have to
Okay.
vote on the two
I agree.
CDPs too.
I agree with,
Okay,
yeah, I agree
so-
with Paul, because the CD amendments go with the application from the applicant. It's
Okay.
part of what they've requested.
I agree.
Hi,
So
yes,
can I get a solicitor, can I solicit a motion? If possible, or do we need to continue discussion around Z2112?
I just wanted to make
And its associated
one
CDP?
quickly as well. This is Matt Abernathy from Chosewood as well. We were on the call for the last vote, but we actually got dropped off just prior to that vote occurring, and we both would have voted the other way. So frankly, if we hadn't lost connection during that vote, the vote would have gone the other way as well. So I just wanted to give that context as well.
Matt, I think you're talking specifically more about Z21-011. That was the close vote.
Correct.
And the
Yes.
motion right now is for Z21-012.
Okay.
It's a different applicant.
Good
Sure,
evening.
sure.
This is Nicole Wesley Smith with Atlanta Housing. I just wanted to advise that I'm on the line and prepared to give a presentation.
Okay, thank you. So what we're gonna do is we're going to go ahead and discuss Z2112. And then we'll allow Nicole to speak on Z2111. So can I get a motion? Can I solicit a motion for only Z2112 and its associated CDP item? I heard my motion, but I didn't catch the names.
Well, Paul McMurray would like to make a motion.
Okay,
If
Paul,
I'm allowed to.
yeah, what's the motion, Paul?
due to the lack of discussion on the percentage of for sale property on D2112, and the fact that it exists, that 30% level does exist in West Highlands, that we with the NPU oppose this oppose D2112 even though the Children's Park did vote for it. Okay. So I do want everyone to understand that. But I believe we have to oppose it because for Atlanta Housing to get 30% for sale in their project, they're going to have to reconsider their whole design. So that's why we should really put both of these cases together. But Jacob has made the case that we have to do them separately. So that's the motion I'd like to make on Z2112.
Is there any
Oh.
seconds to that?
Is I second voting on 12?
I'll second it.
Who was the second? My apologies. I missed it.
Yeah, I heard two voices.
Matthew Abernathy seconds.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Suzanne, her hand has been raised for a moment.
Okay, Suzanne, go ahead. We did do a motion second, but go ahead.
It was just an accident, sorry. I was just trying to understand the clarification of what we're voting on, but I'm sure you'll do it. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Before we move forward with the vote, I'm sorry, the applicant would actually like to speak.
Okay. Yeah, that is a good point. So the applicant, I forgot your name. Go ahead and unmute yourself at this point.
No worries, Nicole.
Hey, Nicole. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. May I share my screen?
Sure.
Yep,
One
and
moment.
this is for both 11 and 12 or just 12?
Correct.
Okay.
It's for both. Mhm.
Okay.
Right, perfect. So I just want to, and I'll go through really quickly, kind of a high level of what the project proposes. You all can let me know if you can see that clearly enough.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's good.
So the total, okay, perfect. So the original site plan had 324 units. It was comprised of approximately 23 acres. This is an original map of that site plan, as well as just some historical photos there. Our currently proposed project and program is for a total of 128 units. Of those, 228 of them are anticipated to be just for seniors. The balance of the 600 units would be multifamily, serving families of all ages. We also are proposing to have a home ownership area of the site, which is here to the western portion. Altogether, there are 81 units. Approximately half of those are townhome attached, and the balance are single family detached homes. We additionally are planning to infuse quite a bit of park space. There's about a ½ an acre park up at the northern end of Inglewood. We also intend to dedicate this portion of the urban forest to the city of Atlanta to retain that as an urban forest. And then we also have a stormwater detention pond, as you see here on the southeastern portion of the site. That will function also as an amenity and kind of a couple of lookout areas that overlook that stormwater park. And then here we have another park space, which is what we're calling kind of a town center. And there will be some retail that is abutting that, as well as along Inglewood. All of the sidewalks are either 6 to 10 or 15 feet in the case of the multi-use trail. We are trying to preserve as many trees as possible. So I can certainly speak to that some more if you guys have any questions. Here's a couple renderings of the pocket park at the northern end. A big request from the neighborhood was continuity and connectivity throughout the neighborhood. So we are intending to bring Climax Street here and Dalton Street all the way through to the Empire development, which will then have a few outlets onto Boulevard. On the northern end, we have also added 2 new streets for additional connectivity throughout the site. And then as you can see here, this orange line that kind of trails through the site is the multi-use trail, which would bring you from the Beltline all the way to Chosewood Park proper. Again, these are just the streets, kind of for a better view. Sidewalk network is here. And again, some of these sidewalks are 10 feet wide along Inglewood and main thoroughfares. The balance of them are 6 feet wide, and then we have the 15-foot wide trail. For clarity, these are the areas we're asking to rezone. Currently, the balance of this northern block and down to about here is all, I'm sorry, actually all the way down here is MRC 3C. We are asking for the balance of that block to also be MRC 3C. South of Climax, we are asking for R4A to MR2 designation, primarily so that we can bring in some additional townhomes here and provide a little more density than what the current zoning provided. Here is just kind of current zoning, so you can see existing zoning to date. This is the property line here on that eastern border. And then it cuts over to about here and the rest of this block. Okay, so that is my presentation. I would ask if I could just chime in for whatever it's worth. We would really like to receive separate votes on these 2 separate applications. As you can see from the presentation, they have very different uses and are on somewhat of different timelines. And so we would like them to be considered separately.
Nicole, this
hold
is Tiffany Wills with Atlanta Housing, Senior Vice President of Real Estate Development.
yeah.
Nicole, can you go back a couple of slides, please? I just wanted to make a couple of comments to the page that has the connectivity from the Beltline down to Chosewood Park through our site. So Atlanta Housing has spent a lot of time since before I got to the agency in 2018. We have been working on this plan, working with the development partners that were procured in 2017. And more specifically, we've spent the last 12 to 18 months really taking a lot of time to meet with the community, meet with CP&A, but also in having conversations and collaborations with the neighboring property owner to the east of our site, Empire Communities, who have closed on their property. And a lot of our planning efforts surrounded providing a lot of the things that the community wanted to see from a connectivity standpoint, from having multi-use trails, to, really coming up with an innovative and green stormwater management plan that could be really, a feature for the entire community to be able to enjoy from a public perspective, not something that would be just to the benefit of the Empire site or the Atlanta Housing site with our developers. And Empire has acquired their property. They are on an aggressive construction schedule, and a large portion of the construction that Empire needs to begin immediately in order to build and create these walking trails and a lot of the other features that have been incorporated into our collaborative design require that we receive the approvals that we need for our development plans so that we can go to HUD and get approvals for Empire to have construction easements, for us to spend our dollars on the public infrastructure and public improvements. And I mean, really the vote for rezoning the small portion of the lots that currently would be needed to complete the multifamily building, but also in order to create the for sale component of our site, is really kind of the pinpoint right now for us being able to move forward aggressively on Empire's schedule. Otherwise, the plan very well could change. And we really have been working hard to work with CPNA, and we're thrilled with the results from their vote last week. And hope that we will find support here at the NPU as we continue to move forward and working with and collaborating with Empire and also with the community.
Okay, and I'm gonna allow for Harold Buckley to also chime in, and immediately at that, Jim Cheeks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make a very brief comment, because the bulk of the comments that were made about Z 2112 related to the form of ownership that is being proposed for these new housing units. And I just wanted to make the group aware of the fact that under federal fair housing laws, local governments are not allowed to consider the ownership type for multifamily uses when they make zoning decisions. And that is because that practice has been used to exclude groups of people from communities, and it's viewed as being inherently arbitrary. Just to give you a little bit of background as to my position and my ability to make it, I started my career out as a zoning planner for the city of Atlanta, and I was the BZA secretary. And whenever a recommendation came in saying we want owner occupied and not renter, unless there was some really compelling substantive reason to do that, the city will not consider it, because again, that's in violation of federal law. And so what I have seen over the 25 years I've been doing this is that those recommendations get disregarded, and I wanted everybody to know that before the vote was taken. And that's what I had to say, Mr. Chair.
All right, and we're going to allow the last Jim Cheeks.
Thank you so much. So Nicole, if you would go back please to the zoning map. If you can actually, yeah, that one there. And maybe can you focus in a little bit more on, say, climax? I think it'd just be easier to describe if it's a little larger. If you can't make it larger, that's fine. But for application 12, which Fortis Homes is involved in, there are 19 lots that are part of our area. And the reason why we're rezoning to the MR for this portion is to create more lots, so there are more opportunities for single family housing. I don't necessarily want to speak to the application that I'm not a part of, but those 12 lots that everyone sees below the pink above climax are what is being rezoned to allow for the multifamily building to be built. So you're losing those 12, but you're gaining far more units. So if there was no rezoning, there would be less units. And so I just want to have the body understand that, and I will stop.
Thank you. So I know we have a motion on the floor by NPU policies and city ordinances. We do have to allow the applicants to speak. So that's why we allow them to speak. Moving forward, is there any, I know there was a motion and second, in theory you're supposed to vote, but is there any other comment from Chosewood Park before we move forward? One more comment.
Yeah, can I make that comment, Troy?
Yes, is that Jacob?
Yes.
Okay, yep, go ahead.
You know, and I thank you, Nicole, for coming and presenting again tonight. I kind of feel like we've seen the same presentation a few times, and I think it's a valid point for what the neighborhood is asking for, is just some specific numbers when it comes to ownership. And I think that's why these two applicants should be separated. I think if you, either Jim or Nicole, could answer that question. Jim, on your side, what is your for sale units going to be? And Nicole, same question.
Yeah, so I'll start. Jim and I are working together, so we're reading from the same page of music. So there's 81 total units. All of those units are going to be marketed for sale. We have not yet determined for sale pricing for either the market rate units or the for sale, or I'm sorry, the affordable units. That is still, we're still early in that kind of planning process to be able to kind of identify what that market list price would be. But I would like to also mention I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago or so, Chosewood Park did a study of the properties in Chosewood Park that they would like to see additional homeownership opportunities on. They identified a number of units that they wanted on. Specifically, I think there was 3 different sites. On our site, I believe the number was 29 single family homes that were desired for the Atlanta Housing Inglewood South site. We really took that to heart and went into planning, maximizing as much of the homeownership opportunity as we could. And so we thought, we were very pleased to know we had 39 or 41 single family detached homes, and the balance of those would be townhomes. Since you guys do have such an influx of townhome product that is coming into your neighborhood, we really tried to have that single family detached product that was requested. So I guess that's one other piece that I would just like to add. So, we have been listening to the community. I think we responded and exceeded the expectations, at least that were set a year and a half or so ago. And we're hoping to really get a positive vote based on our willingness to listen and incorporate that feedback into our plan.
And to add to Nicole's comments, the price point for sale homes for the market rate units would obviously be based off of comps in the market and based off of the product type that Jim is building. To give you a frame of reference, the maximum amount that a household of 4 from an affordability perspective would be able to qualify for would be $252,000 as far as mortgage is concerned. So that would give you an idea of what the maximum purchase price would be, but what their maximum mortgage price would be, but how Atlanta Housing subsidizes affordable for sale units in order to help low-income families move into homeownership is if the purchase price or the total appraised value of the property, the land and the home is $350,000, then Atlanta Housing would provide a seller's note or some other type of down payment assistance in order to bridge the gap between the purchase price and what the affordable home buyers can afford from a mortgage perspective. So if the sales price points are what's at question, the affordable prices will still be sold at the same level. They're just subsidized differently from Atlanta Housing's perspective. But the sales price of the homes will be largely based off of comparables in the market.
All right, so with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and close. We have to move forward in the meeting. We've been have this discussion for 35 minutes. So we need to close this out because we have to move forward, continue to move forward with the agenda. So I would like to move forward with Paul's, his motion and seconding. Paul, could you repeat the motion?
The motion is to oppose C-2112 on the basis that it does not have enough for sale property, which the community has expressed to be 30%. And that, and we understand Mr. Buckley's, comment, and to do so such that it requires a a redesign of the development such that they need to, you know, identify where the 30% is going to go. I just want to say, I didn't make this comment. Currently, this particular project overall is 900 units and only has less than 100 for sale, which makes it about 8%. So it's basically to say no to Z 2112 on the
So
basis
Paul,
that.
so Paul, are you saying no or are you deferring?
We
So
want
is it,
to.
are you
no.
trying to defer back to the neighborhoods? Or are you just opposing altogether? Just a point of clarity.
Well, I'm going to say opposition, so it goes back to neighborhood, okay? As Nicole said, there will have to be a redesign if this does not pass. Okay, so it's opposition to Z 2112 on the basis.
Come on, Paul.
All right, so that is, so Paul made the motion. It's been seconded by Alir. Who was seconding? My apologies there.
Seconded by Matthew.
Seconded by Matthew. So all those who are opposing this the whole entire slate, or well, I'm sorry, opposing Z 2112 and its associated ZDP, please raise your hand at this time.
Troy, just quickly, is opposing it what the neighborhood wanted? So are we affirming what the neighborhood wanted by opposing it?
You're
it sounded split in the vote.
Yeah,
No.
So
Neighborhood approved.
Neighborhood approved.
Yeah, so essentially, the neighborhood approved.
Both of these applications were approved.
Okay, so by opposing, we're controverting the wishes of the neighborhood.
Please allow me to call you. Please use the raise hand feature.
Okay, sorry.
So we can move forward. So allow me to call you into the floor because I'm trying to speak. And I keep hearing people talk. My apologies there. So the application was approved by Chosewood Park. One was 15 for, you may have to help me here because I don't have my notes in front of me, Jacob. 15 for, I think 4 abstentions, and how many against for the second one?
The Jim Cheeks, the applicant that we're talking about now, or if we combine them, the 0-12 applicant had 15 yeses, 1 no, and 8 abstentions. The Z21-011 applicant had 12 yeses, 11 no's, and 5 abstentions. But as you heard before, it probably would have went the other way if other people would have been able to be on call. I'm guessing that's Matt Abernathy. But
all right. So with that, so with that being said, we're going to go ahead and call it to a vote. Those who are opposed for Z2112, please use the raise hand feature at this time. Those who are opposed, meaning that you do that you wanted to go back to the neighborhood. In order to be a voting member, you must have attended 3 meetings out of the last calendar year. So out of the last 12 months, you must have attended 3 meetings to be a voting member. So please keep that in mind. All right, we have 8. Is that correct, James? Or
that is correct, Mr. Chair. 8.
All right, so we're going to close this out. Those who are for the rezoning for Z2112, please use, and it's associated ZDP, I believe it's ZDP 2116. Please use the raised hand feature at this time. Those who want it to be to continue and be passed through. In order to be a voting member, you must have attended 3 out of the last column.
Mr. Chair, for clarity, this last vote is those who are opposed to it going back to the community?
Correct, correct.
We're upholding the wishes of the neighborhood.
Okay.
All right, 7 is 7 what you have, James?
I do, Mr. Chair, but give me one moment. There's some comments in the chat that I'm trying to reconcile. So I see from Regina, 4 votes for no for her entire household.
What does, could she expound on the no? Just kind of
Regina, are
a
you
point of
there?
clarity.
Yeah,
And could she list the names of the people who are voting so they will know they're voting members?
Regina, are you there?
Thank you. She just posted it. So,
Mr. Chair, as parliamentary point of clarity, is her no
yeah,
against it?
I'm trying to get the clarity now. Regina, if you would kind of clarify on your no, we're trying to figure out, are you?
She has no
saying-
mic.
Mr. Chair, she has a technical difficulty with her mic.
Can you write it? Could you write it in the chat, please?
She did. Against it, 4 no's.
All right, Regina, are you voting against the opposition? Against? Do you want it to go to the neighborhood? Say yes or no. We have. We're trying to get. Okay, go to the neighborhood. So.
So, Mr. Chair,
that'll be. Okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so we had 8 raised hands with the amended 4 in the chat. That takes that to 12 going back to the neighborhood. And then the final count for the other is 7.
Okay, is there any abstentions? Let me clear out.
Mr. Chair, as parliamentary, I can tell you that this voting is very confusing. I think the way the motions are worded leads to confusion. I mean, I'm not absolutely certain, without, all due respect, that the applicants, really the latter ones with the 4, recognize, based on the way you framed it, that the request is now to send it back to the neighborhood and to reject it moving forward.
So there is 12. There is 12 votes to send it back to the neighborhood. There's currently 7 votes to allow it to be approved by the NPU. Is there anybody in confusion with that? All right, moving forward, any abstentions, please raise your hand at this time.
No abstentions, Mr. Chair, 12-7-0.
All right, so the motion carries to oppose and go back to the neighborhood for a revaluation. So we look forward to seeing it on the agenda in the future. Moving forward, we're gonna go ahead and vote or do a motion. Can I get a motion for Z2111?
Yes, this is Paul McMurray. Opposition to oppose this application on the basis that it doesn't contain 30% home ownership, and to give the neighborhood an opportunity to review that issue.
All right, can I get a second? And this is also the associated GDP, correct?
Yes, and there's a CDP with it.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a second for that?
Second.
Second.
Did I get a second from Suzanne?
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, those who are in favor of the opposition to go back to the neighborhood, please raise your hand at this time. In order to be a voting member, you must have attended 3 meetings out of the last voting calendar year.
Is Paul,
I'm voting. I had a problem. All right, there it is.
All right, so we have 8 as well as the 4 raised hands in the
chat. So a total of 12, Mr. Chair.
All right, moving forward. Those, I'm clearing now. Those who are against Paul's motion to allow it to go to the neighborhoods, which means that it will be passed by the NPU-Y and it'll be passed by NPU-Y essentially. So those who are against Paul's motion, please raise your hand at this time.
Mr. Chair, did we previously instruct on the phone how to vote? Are the folks on the phone recognizing that it's *6 to vote?
Oh, thank you. So if you are a voting member and you're dialed in, use *6, type *6 to be able to vote. Thank you, Gloria, for that. All right, so, okay, so 4, I'm clearing that. Those who abstain, please use the raise hand feature at this time. You have to attend 3 out of the last 12 calendar months to be a voting member. All right, since we have 0. So what's the count, James?
Final tally, Mr. Chair, 12-4-0.
All right, so in both cases, it goes back to the community. And we will, whenever the community comes to an agreement, it'll come back before the NPU at that time.
So,
all right.
This is Nicole Wesley Smith with Atlanta Housing. Just a quick question then. From an administrative perspective, is that the process? I mean, we received a favorable vote and now we're going to go back. If we receive a no vote, do we then just come back to the NPU and you guys vote regardless of the vote based on their, I guess, response or
Yep.
your vote at that time.
Yep. So the NPU
okay.
so the neighborhood votes only recommends it only as a recommendation vote to the NPU. The NPU's vote is what's submitted to the city. If you were to just continue with this vote, then it'd just be a no until the neighborhood, until we have a deciding something that's some new information. For example, if the community now approves it, then we will essentially do either amended vote or a rescission vote to be able for the NPU to do a revote, because now there's new valid information that's different from what was at hand before. So that's kind of so you will have to come back to the NPU for a vote if you want to vote of approval from NPU exact, but this will be submitted to the city. So you still can go before the ZRB hearing with this vote. If that makes sense. But if you want to say, hey, we want to vote for approval from the NPU, then you have to, communicate with the communities or even come back to the NPU for a revote. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Aaron, Aaron, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
May I make a motion?
What is that motion?
I would like to make a motion to have the NPU vote along whenever they do return back to the neighborhood, if Chosewood then decides, whatever Chosewood decides at that point, the NPU actually will go in favor of whatever the neighborhood decides to do, so they don't have to come back to us. That's all. I just wanted to make sure that she seems like there's a timeline that both of these applications are on, and I don't want to disrupt that timeline by them having to wait to our July meeting. So whatever decision they make in a thoughtful dialogue that they have after this meeting, can we as a NPU allow that to transpire? And the NPU vote, since our vote is, their vote is a suggestion to us, can we just say we are in favor of whatever Chosewood decides to do in their community once they have more dialogue with Nicole? So my motion is that we are in favor of whatever motion that Chosewood finds after further dialogue.
I agree with that.
No.
I agree with that.
So can
someone second that?
I'll second that.
Okay. Those who are in favor, I'm clear real quick. So it's motion by Monique Nunley and seconded by Jacob. Those who are in favor, raise your hand at this time.
Mr. Chair, please repeat the motion. Just the background and all, I just really couldn't hear it all.
Yeah, so the motion was to allow the neighborhood to make a vote, and then the NPU will just side in with whatever the neighborhood decides, which we have done in the past. So that is a correct statement. So that way, whenever the neighborhood votes, then the NPU will just side in with whatever the neighborhood says, or coincide with whatever the neighborhood says. So we will also approve.
I agree, because we thoroughly vetted this today. So by the time it comes back, you're not.
Thank you. So those are in favor, please raise your hand at this time.
Just a clarification, who put the motion through? Was that the VP?
That was Monique Nunley, the education chair. And then it was seconded by Jacob, and I also see a couple of I see Robin in the chat as well, but I think Jacob got to it first.
I'm sorry I keep butting in, but a reason to oppose is that we want maximum negotiating power. I think this motion, although Ms. Nunley is a very astute person, I think limits the community's ability to negotiate, but we can go on with the vote.
And Troy, this is Bob. It also appears to me that it is short circuiting the normal processes. by which the NPU agrees to look at matters coming to them and not looking at them in advance,
And
just
not-
my opinion.
And not having,
My hand is raised, Mr. Chair. Also, it's not equitable to the community at large that this hour has been devoted to things that could have been flushed out, presented to the executive team, and then they summarize and people can vote. That doesn't seem quite fair either.
We've
Well-
taken up very little time at the NPU level. Almost no issues at Chosewood come before the NPU. So much time at the NPU is taken up with crime and other quality of life issues from other areas at the NPU. And this is the first time that we've really taken up any time. So I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Okay, yeah, and it's also, this has been on the agenda for 4 months at this point.
By the same
So,
token, the policy of the NPU is to defer to the community. That's been a standing
So-
policy.
yeah, with that being said, we got to end at 9, so we have 20 minutes and we still have one more voting matter. So I need to go ahead and get this passed through or rejected or however the community decides. So those who are in favor, continue to raise your hand to allow the community to make the decision, and then the NPU just coincides with whatever the community asks for. And that way it can essentially not go before the NPU.
this is saying that the city can go faster. That's
Correct. All right, we have, I'm gonna close it out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, what we have, James?
7, Mr. Chair.
All right, 7. Those who are opposed to the motion to allow the community to make the decision and not allow the NPU to come before the NPU. Those who are opposed, please use your hand, raise your hand at this time.
that means opposing the city determining time limits, right?
Yep, and not allowing the NPU to have, let's say if he was trying to use pros and cons. All right, so this is, I'm gonna close out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hold on,
All right, so please use the raise hand feature, please. So we have, James, what is the
my
count?
hand was raised, but it's not registering, sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Suzanne, I thought it was a vote.
That was the vote. It's not cutting through. I can't see my hand going up. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah,
but-
we
Okay, now
see
it's
it.
up. Okay, good.
Yep.
Thank you.
James, what's the count?
That would be 4 and then somebody's clapping. So I'm assuming that's 5.
All right, so 7-5. Those who abstain, please raise your, I'm gonna clear out right now. Those who abstain, please use the raise hand feature at this point. All right, 7-5-2. So Monique's motions carry. So they will go before Chosewood Park, and we will then in subsequent pass it out. Once Chosewood sends me an email, I will mention it in the next meeting. However, whatever they choose, the NPU will just approve that. All right.
On this one, we're not doing this and breaking precedent for every other vote, correct?
Well, there is precedent. So this has been done in the past multiple times. So, so it's also for this vote, yes, we're doing that. But typically, the NPU would need to make it. But in this case, since it has to go back to the neighborhood and they have timelines that they need to meet, then Chosewood can go ahead and can make the decision there. All right, moving forward. Let's go to the next voting matter, which is I will allow briefly, I think the director is on the line of the agriculture. Let's see.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, yep. All right, you can go ahead and speak towards this.
Greetings, I appreciate that. Give thanks. Greetings, everyone. This is Jay Olubayewu. I am the Urban Agriculture Director for the City of Atlanta. I'm housed in the Mayor's One Atlanta Office of Resilience. Our urban agriculture work at the City of Atlanta is done in conjunction with the Department of Parks and Rec, as well as the Department of City Planning, and then me again, once again, as the Urban Agriculture Director. Ordinance Z2141 is an update to code that already exists. In a nutshell, it is going to permit urban farms that are in zoned residential districts to be able to sell on site. So currently, there are several urban farms that are in residentially zoned districts. They are able to grow food, and they are then asked to sell food off-site. This will allow them to not only sell food off-site, but be able to sell food on-site, which then increases access for all the communities that are surrounding the actual urban farm. It's an opportunity for increased economic opportunity, a way to recirculate dollars. And quite frankly, many of the urban farms are designated as USDA low income, low access areas. So we see this as an equitable food access situation or solution where, again, communities that don't always have access to health and fresh, affordable local food can now access it. So that in a nutshell is what this ordinance is. It doesn't change the SAP. It's not changing a new code. It's actually permitting farmers that are already in residentially zoned districts or new farms in residentially zoned districts to be able to also sell on their site.
Yeah. We had a couple of questions from the executive team. Is how is it enforced? Because we know it's the SAP and we really don't know the process of the SAP process in great detail. It's not very thorough on the website. So how is in the case where we find something where they're selling a product that shouldn't be sold, or how is the SAP enforced? How are you all enforcing this?
Yep,
purchase?
Absolutely. Oh, excuse me. I was trying to send it to everyone. Here we go. Yes. So the way the SAP process, this SAP works, this SAP works, it is officiated through the Department of City Planning. Like I said, that's one of the institutional partners in urban agriculture in the city. And then it is reviewed by the Urban Agriculture Director, which is me at this moment in time. So it is a process that already exists. The link that I put there in the chat discusses it a bit more. If you look at Urban Garden SAP or Urban Farm SAP. So it is enforceable. And then what I would say is that, if there are any complaints about a permitted site, you can always email us at aglanta@atlantaga.gov. And that will be the way that we'd be able to respond. So, it's like any other property. I mean, if there's construction violations or water violations, then it's the same government departments or agencies. But you can also reach us directly at aglanta@atlantaga.gov.
All right, thank you. Paul, briefly, could you discuss the findings of the executive team, or what the executive team recommended? Still online? All right, he's not online. So basically for Z2141, the executive team recommended.
Mari, I'm on it now.
Okay, go ahead. 1 minute.
Now that I've heard this in context, I would, I guess the enforcement is as good as we're ever going to get. And it's for basically, hopefully people that are just selling food. I guess I would like to have a question back is exactly what items can they sell? I mean, what we were afraid of is, are they going to turn this into a flea market?
Oh, I see. No, got it. This is for agricultural products. So it is for fresh produce, fruits, vegetables, herbs, spices. And then of course, some people do honeybees, so they have honey, or, they may grow kale and then convert those into kale chips. So it does include value added products, anything that's kind of grown on the land. But no, it's not an opportunity to create like a farmer's market. There's a separate process for that. And it's not an opportunity for like a flea market or a crafts market. It's for agricultural products. Thank you for asking
Okay,
that.
well, that was my concern, and I believe the representative has answered it. So I would
All right.
say we should recommend it, a positive vote.
Yep, so the executive team did recommend a positive vote to move forward, just trying to end with the purpose to get clarity around the items that he just messaged. So now that we got clarity, I'd like to solicit a motion from the floor.
Motion
Kelly
to
Jean, I vote to approve.
Second.
Motion by Kelly Jean, seconded by James. Those who are in favor, please raise your hand at this time. All right, we have 15 votes to approve.
That is correct, Mr. Chair. Just for the record, 4 in the chat and 11 hands raised on the screen.
All right, I'm going to clear right now. Those who are against this particular amendment, please raise your hand at this time, or those who are against the motion to approve. All right, closing at this time. What's the count here, James?
0, Mr. Chair.
0. Those who choose to abstain, please raise your hand at this time. All right, 15-0-0. That is, it has been unanimously approved. All right, moving forward.
Good, thanks, everyone. I've put my information in the chat. Feel free to reach out to me at any time about urban agriculture, food access, food recovery, and waste diversion. And y'all have a wonderful evening.
Yeah, thank you so much for attending. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just a quick time check. It's 8:53, so we have a few more minutes left.
All right, I'm gonna move towards really quickly. Old businesses, we were able to submit the NPU-Y policies to the city. That goes in part to the CDP. James will share it with you all, and we'll also share it in the chat if you want to read through it. But essentially, it is a group of policies that the NPU has agreed upon. So we voted on it in the last meeting, and we just wanted to also mention it here. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to the executive team, and we can answer any questions or concerns. So this has been approved by the NPU last month, and it has been submitted. We will also, probably sometime within the next month, we're gonna post it to the site as well. So you have access. The next item, yep, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, my phone was muted now. When you guys get a chance, this is Officer Lawrence with the sweep team. I was just trying to get in and give my presentation. I know it's at the end. It's something just real quick, but my phone, I've been having issues getting it off of mute.
Okay, I'll call you in a second then.
Okay, I'll go back on.
I'm gonna spend, right now, for the sake of time, I'm gonna go ahead and go to presentations. So the Atlanta vaccination campaign. Is there anybody from the Office of the Mayor Atlanta Vaccination Campaign? All right, great. So we'll go ahead and move back to committee reports. We do have time. Education Committee, Monique.
Hello, everyone. I'm Monique. I am the Education Committee Chair. We are currently on a break right now just because school is out, and we are urgently awaiting to hear all of the plans from Atlanta Public Schools. As we heard from purpose-built schools, we're still working on the. I'm sorry. We are waiting all of the different kinds of information about how school will open. So that's a part of the work that we're doing to see how can we lean into schools to see what they will allow us to do and how we can get engaged. You heard from purpose-built schools that they are looking for volunteers and wanting us to engage with our schools, but we need to figure out how logistically we can do that. So I'm working on a campaign called Underexposed. We did work with in the neighborhood Genius Pop-Ups, which was an opportunity where 6 of our community leaders in the community came together and they showed students different things like fashion design, audio production, film design, animation, and we had about 25 students from the local surrounding area that go to Carver Cluster schools join us and learn those things at the Pittsburgh Yards and NPU-Y. We're hoping to expand that and do like speaker engagements at our local schools, and that could be virtual. So that's kind of why we're trying to learn what are the rules as we return to school. We're also going to start implementing a education component about the NPU. I think a lot of the frustrations we felt in this meeting are largely about educating ourselves on the processes that we need to have in place inside of our NPU. And our chair is really excited to launch a communication strategy in the fall. So you'll start seeing more information about that, as well as inside of that components, we'll be doing some door-to-door knocking, telling people about the NPU, what do we do, doing possibly some Robert's Rules of Order so we can all understand the process of an NPU, telling more people about NPU University, because a lot of the delays we're experiencing or the frustrations and tensions is we must learn how to build and be in community with each other and have dialogue beyond these meetings so they don't stretch out 2 and 3 hours. So I do want to, this is kind of my first ask is like, if you are interested in August, there will be an opportunity for you to be educated and learn more about what the NPU is. If you're, I know Susan had a conversation or Susanna had a conversation about like, what are we doing in these meetings? I would love to kind of start having those conversations outside of this meeting so we can all learn how the NPU structure works. I can share more information about NPU University and the department and planning team that we have here with us, Erin. She can also share more information, but I know they have a very heavy load on them. So I'm more than willing to support that work. But I do think the way we move faster in these meetings and the way that we build community more is going to take more time outside of this meeting. And so I really want to invite people in August, and you'll get more information about it, about learning about how we as an NPU ourselves can do community differently with each other. So let me know if you're interested in that. If you're interested in speaking to kids, here is, wait, let me make sure I have the right one. Here is the Google form. It's really easy to remember. It's Underexposed TX for the easier version. But please, please, please sign up if you would like to talk to kids, if you'd like to have a conversation. We're going to be having a conversation about having not enough exposure for youth in our community and what that means for our kids in a predominantly Black community, low-income community with Black children. And so I want us to come together and talk about that. The next Purpose-Built Schools board meeting is on Wednesday at 11 a.m. It is on Zoom. So I can also get you that information. My email address is in the chat. Thank you.
All right, appreciate it for everything you're doing with the Executive Committee. We're gonna go into public safety.
Yes.
Gloria.
Yes, I can piggyback on what our education chair has just stated. A couple items. First of all, juvenile crime is the preeminent issue permeating all corridors of Atlanta. Recently, the two 15-year-olds at Lenox, one of them is out of Lakewood. The 16-year-old who was shot at the Hyatt and essentially murdered at the Hyatt within the last 6 to 12 months out of Lakewood, as well as the teen that was seriously shot 3 weeks ago in the villages of Carver. What the fashion and the emphasis right now, purpose-built school received through the NPU and the involvement with Macy's Lenox, received a grant, a free summer school program. Again, Dr. Saunders' information is in the chat. Likewise, the Carver Y is booting back up its teen center. It also is gratuitous. It's no charge as a teen between, I think, they're taking them as young as 11 to 18. But again, those are incentives that are designed to, again, to focus on the primary issues, the theft from vehicles, the shootings, the aggravated assault, the very serious felonies seem to be tracking a teen group that maybe went awry during this COVID-19 environment. Again, Carver Y subsidizing as a free teen center. We've got purpose-built that have been given monies through the Y that came via the Macy's Corporation. And there was one other APAD Promise Center. Again, we're lucky and fortunate enough to have Joyce Shepard. She chairs the Public Safety Committee. There is a newly installed Promise Center within, it's actually an NPU-V or X, maybe V, but it's within 1.5 miles of NPU-Y. PAL, the Police Athletic League is also, again, let's capture these youth as best we can during this period of time. Lastly, piggybacking on what our education chair stated, the NPU now has an emphasis on bringing more of the 12,000 residents of NPU to the table. Partly, we have out of Lakewood, Stacy Spriggs, who has volunteered and is collating as we speak booklets whereby they should act as welcome packets to our new residents. It will start off with an NPU kind of cover, and then the allied communities, which are 10 or 11, and then the individual inserts that deal specifically with those communities. So again, that is something we're currently looking at. I think we have a bit of funding. We're looking for more funding because we again are speaking of 10 to 11 communities. I think that is it. I think that's it. Essentially, I think that's it.
Thank you. James, did you have anything? I know you really lead communications.
No, sir, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Moving forward, Officer Lawrence.
Hello, everyone. I had a little issue getting in tonight, but I just wanted to let you all know that June the 7th, I know we started back with our collection of all 3 recycling, yard trimming, and garbage on the scheduled collection day. I do apologize if anyone have been experiencing any delays as that relates, but please try to please be a little patient with us. We're trying to get it back in the flow of collecting all 3. If it is missed, please allow us to the next day to make sure it's, we're going to go ahead and get it up. If not, you can call it in as a miss, but we have crews working a little bit past their times to make sure that these items are being removed. But if they aren't, please let us know so we can get that taken care of. Also, feel free, please call 311 if you see any illegal dumping. Someone for the sweet team. We don't just go out and put in requests. We go out and we actually do investigation to see if we can find out who actually did the dumping. So there's something that we can try to stop. My department is in the process of working with APD to try to get cameras up to kind of eliminate some of this dumping that's occurring in the city. But I did put my information in the chat. So if you have any questions or concerns about a certain property as it relates to anything on the right of way or illegal dumping, feel free to email me. But also use the 311 system to, so that way we can kind of have it on the record as far as, how we handle it going forward. But if anybody have any questions or concerns for me, you can email me or I can go ahead and take them now.
We're gonna Officer Lawrence, if you would stay on real quick, I'm gonna move forward. And then we'll,
Okay,
if you have a question for Officer Lawrence, just send a message in the chat.
and
really
check, and
quickly.
I'll just get it from there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Chair. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no problem. The planners report. Aaron.
Okay, I'll go very quickly. So the Department of City Planning is still working on the comprehensive development plan. This month, there will be 3 virtual public meetings, one on June 10th, June 12th, and the last on the 17th. You can find the times for that in the Word doc I dropped in the chat, and then also in the links. There will also be 2 NPU University classes this month, June 24th and June 29th. And DCP is launching an Atlanta cemetery network, and it's a resource for and about the city cemeteries, all of them big, small, active, and abandoned. And while they're still working out the details about the network, you can get more information if you email, I think I posted in the chat, but if I didn't, I'll repost it. You can email what I'll drop in there to get more information on the Atlanta Cemetery Network. And this year will be the 2nd annual Preservation Week, and that'll be in October from the 18th to the 21st. And the theme is Our Shared Legacy, Historic Preservation in Atlanta. And more information will be coming soon about that. And NPU University is going to be bringing back the Community Leadership Institute this fall, and it's a 4-week certificate course, and it's targeted towards rising community leaders who want to strengthen their leadership skills and identify their leadership style. And applications are due July 6th. And if I haven't posted that link, I'll make sure I did that too. Oh, it's in there. Okay, so I'll just make sure I post the cemetery email, and that's all I've got.
Thank you, Aaron, for all the work. We're gonna open the floor up for announcements, and then we're gonna open the floor for questions.
Well, I have a question of the plan.
Well, we are over time, so I'm gonna open the floor for
All right.
announcements briefly, and then at the end,
I'll stick
Aaron,
around.
if you would stick around, yep, thank you. So is there any announcements? The first one, of course, is already in the agenda. July 1st is the deadline for the Lakewood Amphitheater grant submission. So you have any community work that you plan to do as part of a nonprofit or for-profit, which is interesting. Everything is on the website, so you can get more information. You can get grants up to $2,500. So the deadline, we need to make that update. It says April 1st, but it's July 1st, 2021. All right, is there any other announcements?
This is not an announcement. This is Hudson again from the Joyland area. Thank you so much for opening up the Y to give the kids the opportunity, because our recreation center basically is empty. Most of the time, there's nothing going on over there. And we really do need help in getting something started at our center. Crossing Pry Road is a serious situation. Because the lights are never recalculated whenever there's something at the amphitheater. It's made to hold traffic in Joyland and Carver Home and High Point to keep the flow of traffic going back and forth. And it's not very safe for the kids, because you're talking about activities, excitement, and they're going to fly across the street. And we need help to recalculate, because the lights should not hold as long as these lights hold. And it makes it really unsafe for pedestrians walking across Pry Road from the left side to the right side, either way. And also, the Y never opens the gate on Pry Road. You have to go down an incline, up a busy neck, up into the parking lot to get to the entrance if you're walking. If you're riding, it's great, but we're talking about kids coming down, running, scooping. I'm wondering if the Y would be agreed to open the Pry Road gate, which would make it so much easier and safer, really, for the seniors and the kids coming there. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. We do have Gloria online. She sits on the board, so she can.
FYI,
she'll
Mr.
take-
Chair, the front gate is open. I'm not quite sure.
There's a There's a second.
It's
so
the
you got
gate
the-
on the Pride Road side that's locked all the time.
Yeah, she's
The
right.
gate to go in is from the parking lot, but it's a gate on the Pride Road side. You have to go all the way around to get in there.
Yes, it's a
Yeah.
security issue. I hate to tell you. We've had some compromising based on folks coming in, kind of hiding out in the bushes, even after the facility closed, and it's a security issue, but we'll address it if you will. Just call Donald Woodruff at the Y, and I'm sure he'll address it with you.
Donald Woodruff.
Woodruff, WOODRUFF. He is the executive director. And thanks.
Thank you.
Excellent participation. Folks are coming back. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for attending. And last, Paul, I know you had a question. Go ahead and close it out.
There's supposed to be some zoning coming behind the CDP, but when I went to one of those meetings that you mentioned, it sounded like they were just going to pass the CDP and wait till next year to propose zoning to support it. I just want to know if that's true.
Yes, so the city is required, there's state legislation that requires the city to update the zoning, they just do their comprehensive plan every number of years. And basically what happened is the city had originally hired a consultant to assist, and there was this falling out with the consultant. So the city ended up doing it themselves. And because of that, in order to meet their obligations with the state, what they're going to be turning in now is more so like an administrative update. And then that heavy duty hardcore update is going to be next year.
Okay, so, but there's no proposed zoning legislation for putting duplexes or small apartments in single family neighborhoods coming down?
You mean like the ADU stuff?
No, not the ADU. Some of proposals are middle missing. What they will do is allow people to do attached ADUs, which means duplexes.
Okay.
And small apartments. And I just wanted to know if there's any legislation trailing this CDP, or are you going to wait till next year?
I haven't heard of any that's going to be introduced this year, but I can double check with the person that's on my team, in my department, that goes to all the updates. If you email me, and you can I can check with her.
Yeah, well, I'll send you an email and you can send me something back.
Okay, that'll work.
Thanks.
All right, appreciate it. Is there any other questions or announcements before we adjourn?
You hang around a few minutes, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, motion adjourned by Larry, seconded by Gloria. All right, 9:15. I appreciate everybody for joining and sticking around with us. I'm gonna leave the chat open as usual for if anybody have any further questions or concerns or any feedback to the NPU. We always leave it open for another 15 minutes so that we can, fellowship. So have a good day, and hope you all have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're still here though, right?
Yeah, I'm here.
I guess I can start by just kind of giving you what I gave you earlier, that I just thought part of the process that seemingly we were doing really well on, someone mentioned that Chosewood normally doesn't take this kind of time. I don't think any of the issues that we've dealt with in the last 6 to 12 months have involved anybody other than Chosewood in terms of these massive developments.
I agree with you 100% there, Gloria. And I will say this, it's hard to keep quiet, but I don't, you know, I'm not really sure where to start with this, because I feel like not only has the applicants done their job as far as coming and presenting to the neighborhood, but they haven't done a very good job explaining it. The zoning that was passed from last Monday's meeting, it was, you know, there were separate applications, which is what they should have been. I don't know. I wasn't informed that you guys were gonna combine the applications. And there was an email that was sent around, and there was an approval process from the people that chimed in on the email. It wasn't enough to be a quorum, but it was something that wasn't discussed. And I kind of offered that up to them tonight. Just let us know what their percentage of their for sale units are. And I'm surprised Jim Cheeks didn't chime in other than on the chat, but his units, 100% of those units in that zoning application for the first one was for sale. And the second application was for changing the MR2 in a small section. You know, I don't think Harold did himself any favors tonight or last week when he, you know, spoke at the meeting. I think it would have probably gotten a better vote if he wouldn't have chimed in to begin with. But I think that is a fair thing to say, that, you know, we're asking for a certain amount of ownership out of the units. And rather than answer the question, and I think this is why people, you know, they're confused on how to vote with it, and they don't feel like they're being, you know, told everything is, you know, they combine their numbers, yet they're two different separate applications. So I appreciate you guys taking the time, but I feel bad that we have to go back and do this again, and I feel bad for the applicants. You know, it's
what I'm saying is it just seems so. I'm sure we lost a lot of people because I started looking at my phone because there's so many issues and there's so many acronyms and there's so much under what is R4, what is MRC3. It just, and then it was a representation of whatever Nicole presented at the meeting. I don't think we had been discussing in the executive meetings that the way we were going to keep the attention and we were shooting for 60 and upwards. People were starting to drop off, and I think we ended up with somewhere around 30, was to have a streamlined process where by the time it gets to the floor, that the executive team, particularly Troy and James, have parsed the issues and can frame in a better way the issues for vote, and or hopefully have deferred to the community who has thoroughly vetted it, and that the community does not put it on the agenda until it is thoroughly vetted. Because again, that was an hour, and I like I say, I suspect you guys were really into it because you all understand the nuances of what you've been dealing with. The fact that's again, I'm proud of you all, and I'm excited. I went over on Milton the other day, and I'm like, damn, this thing
doesn't even look the same, does it?
So yeah, so Gloria, I agree. I think that tonight that particular matter was it seemed like it was a split vote, and it wasn't, you know, you all approved it, Jacob, but then you know, you didn't consider the 30%.
Troy, it was 100% the way that it's presented as a vote. It's confusing to the individuals. And I like Paul. He fights a good fight. I mean, this idea was Paul's that was supported as a 30%. Yeah. I don't think it's too much to ask. I mean, but the way that it was presented, that to vote them down or send it back to us, I think the motion was presented wrong for people to vote on. Yeah. We made it clear in our meeting, which is why it was approved.
Jeremy, you have your hands raised. Did you want to say anything? Or is it just raised?
No, I just wanted to add that I'm pretty much on all the NPU meetings every night for all the NPUs, and really it's an overarching issue that I'm seeing just in general when it comes to a lot of the different acronyms that are being used. People are just not following, and it does become very confusing. And when it comes to just presenting, what I'm noticing a lot is there's just more of a lack of how it's being presented in a way that's really informative and where people are grasping what's being said. And I think that that's something that we can all work on, but it's definitely something I want to chime in on to say that we really just need to do a better job in making sure that the average person is really able to follow along and understand what's going on. That's all.
Yes.
Agree. Yeah, and we have a initiative now to try to educate the neighbors and try to put everything in layman's terms in our NPU, because we noticed that that's a very huge issue. It's the fact that it's so cryptic. Nobody understands it. So it requires one of us from the executive team to briefly explain it and talk about it. But hopefully, our goal is to also, as Jacob alluded to, make sure that the neighborhoods has their input. So I'm glad that it does go back, because there are some pieces that needed to be discussed. My hope is just that we probably just should have had a recommendation to begin with, so it won't go 40 minutes, 45 minutes to the meeting, where we can just say, hey, Chose will recommend, since we had 8 people voted via email for the 30%, then we recommend that it's right now Chose will need to further vet it out and just defer it back and just do that on the onset, rather than extending the meeting too long, because as Gloria mentioned, oftentimes
It's not fair to anyone.
Yeah,
it's just not fair to anybody to do that.
Yeah.
In all
So-
fairness, Jacob, I
If
clearly.
I may add something, guys, I'm coming in on Robert's.
Okay, go ahead, Bob. Go ahead,
Thanks.
Suzanne.
So I think this time what people realize is the NPU is the only other stop before we get to the city to clarify. We asked for information, and I can speak for some people who we didn't get the information from the city. The city always presents the same thing over and over again, and it's only when you really push them and take time that they start telling you what's behind the scenes, but they just obfuscate. So it's really hard when you're making decisions for the community for the next 5 years, when in fact you don't have all the data. This time, the NPU was the only way that the community, that Chosewood could come up and ask, look, we didn't get all the data. This is not what we thought we were voting on. Therefore, what are we supposed to do? I agree with you. You could have sent it back and have the, but the point is, it's the last stop. The community, half the community, when they found out that this was what was presented, didn't agree, wanted to change their vote. So we have a lot of people who are in disagreement here, who didn't understand what was happening. So that's what happened tonight.
Let me chime in on that one, Suzanne, because, and this is the issue, when you have 120 days to educate yourself on an issue, it's hard to keep telling applicants that you're not educated on it. That's the time for individuals in the neighborhood to come together, to talk, to get on the same page as far as what they're asking for and how we can achieve what we want as a community. I mean, to say that we didn't have time is, I think that's wrong. I think we've had plenty of time. I think that the wrong questions have been asked, and I think that not enough people, and especially with the way it was presented tonight, it's confusing as hell for people to try to figure out what they're voting for.
That's so true, Jacob. So true. But I would even say that, I disagree that when I looked at the voting, it was just Chosewood. Everybody else was like deer in the headlights. Like what? I don't. It's again. I'm just excited for you all, just watching what's happening. But it seems like the process should be duking it out, and then bringing it to the executive team before putting it on the agenda. Then the executive team can intervene and start to help you flush the issues, see where the contentiousness is, and then it stays a bay until it gets to a point where the executive team says this is reasonably a vote that we believe stands. Because what I heard tonight is some people were cut off, but all of that should have been resolved. And again, this is no criticism. It's just that we lose people, including, and that's what we've been trying to avoid. I've been sitting around the NPU table for a while, and the best I've seen is the last 6 to 8 months, whereby we really tried to develop a system whereby people are not bogged down on one-sided issue of the 11 communities. And I disagree. I don't think getting it to the NPU was the final arbiter of flushing it out. I think doing a little more flushing with yourselves and letting the elected body then kind of parse the issue. I don't think it's right for the agenda. Let's deal with this. That's my opinion, because you
No,
might.
you're right. I agree 100% with you. It takes too much time from the meeting, and people lose interest. And it's not fair to other applicants. It's not fair for people that are there to, they shouldn't have to sit through a contest between the one community that's holding up, 7 other communities in the NPU. I 100% agree. I just, based on what we had for a vote the other night, it's, I think that it was going one direction, and it's obvious that there definitely needed to be more time spent on it. So I agree.
I agree with you, Jacob. And what I would say to you, Gloria, is that you guys have been doing a great job. More people are coming in. So has Jacob as president. He has been doing a great job. But it's a question of what is your objective? Are you just reporting, information, or are you actually making sure that the communities, if they need to discuss more, you send them back and say, hey guys, you need to discuss more. Obviously, you have people who are not clear, you have people who don't agree, there's a lot of contention. And it's important when you're dealing with people like the Beltline or Atlanta Housing, because you don't get a second chance. If people didn't understand and voted wrong, we didn't get a second chance. So thank God people got to talk this time. But what do you think, Jacob? Do we should have extra meetings in between the meetings? People are not going to get together to talk about
Of
stuff
course.
informally.
Of course, that just after tonight's vote, it becomes part of my own agenda to send out to the neighborhood now. We've obviously got to sit down and regroup because, Troy and them are waiting for us to.
Where people hash out and make sure they understand the impact. Nobody understood that apparently other housing units have more ownership, and we were only getting 8%. Nobody brought that up. We found out after the fact. And why would we be different than anybody else? We're taking 900 units rather than the 3 that were originally there. That's a fair question for people to debate.
But Suzanne, I would enjoy being party to listening to you all parse those issues, because we believe development is coming our way as well. But for the purpose of the meeting, it was just, I would have liked to have been more back in the way back when you guys started dealing with the applicant.
We only started in the last, we have rushed to do the what we call our charter. We've been focused on that. The city has been really moving fast. And as James said, they've been moving fast suddenly, and we all were caught unaware. And I think there's a reason for that. The same reason that the vice president cleverly said, oh, I'm not a resident, but let me push you forward and start messing and getting the schedule I want. I'm not sure I appreciated an outsider in our meeting making motions. I'm not sure I appreciate that.
When you say the city was moving fast, you mean in terms of what Nicole was trying to do, or some other issues?
Nicole, we've asked her to come back because they don't give us answers that we clearly understand. And sometimes we find out that there are facts that they chose not to tell us, or they didn't think was important, or that they didn't think we needed to know. I don't know what the issue is.
We asked.